Hello everyone, it's Jabbar here. Today's video is a patron request. If you would like to make a video request of your own, you can do so by becoming a patron. The link to this can be found below. This video is sponsored by NordPass, but we'll talk more on that later. For now, let's celebrate Black History Month, but in a different way, describing a development that goes way back. And not just the days of MLK or slavery or even Christopher Columbus, but way back. On top of that, it's something so significant that we still use it every single day of our lives, and it's foundational to any human being who hopes to function properly in modern society. Yeah, bold claim, I know. Binary code. A system of ones and zeros in various combinations that quite literally gives every single one of our modern day computing devices the ability to read, communicate, and perform complex operations. From the smallest calculator to the largest supercomputer, none of it would be possible without the system of binary code, as this allows for quick, complex, yet incomparably precise mathematical calculations. Modern scholarship credits German polymath Gottfried Leibniz with the invention of the system in 1689. While it's generally accepted that he acquired his knowledge of the system from the ancient Chinese text I Ching, there are a few other notable examples of the binary system that predate Leibniz's invention. Deep in the heart of the West African forests gave birth to one of these systems known as Ifa, common among various peoples and cultures of the region. To this day, Ifa remains in use throughout West Africa and the African diaspora, and as of 2005, it has officially been added to the list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO. So, what makes this West African system of divination similar to modern computing? The Ifa literary corpus is comprised of 256 parts, similar to how in modern computing, you are likely to see hardware such as RAM, flash drives, and memory cards divided into increments of 256. This is because each decimal number is represented by 8 integers in various combinations of ones and zeros when converted to binary. I won't give you a full lesson on binary, but in summary, if you convert a 0 into binary, it will be represented by 8 zeros, while the number 256 is represented by 8 ones, which denotes the effective maximum range of binary numbers. Each 1 equates to 1 bit, which is where the term 8-bit comes from, and which is why newer and more complex technology incorporates 32 and 64-bit technologies, which are all of course multiples of the number 8. This is also why we see the infamous 255s and subnet masks, marking an IPv4 network's effective networking and host range, with one spot being reserved for the network identifier, thus totaling 256 or 8 bits in each of the 4 octets, which totals out to a 32-bit network. Anyway, away from the comparisons and onto the Ifa corpus. The word Ifa has its origins in the name of the Yoruba deity Ifa or Orinmila, who is regarded as the god of wisdom and intellectual development, which given the complexity of the Ifa corpus, I couldn't think of a more appropriate god to associate it with. Traditionally, the Ifa corpus is based around a 16-pillar principle, or mathematically, 16 to the power of 16. This corresponds with an 8-dimensional hypercube with math so complex I'm not even going to bother getting into it, but as usual, if you're more interested and would like to read further, you can do so in my sources. So with all of this said, we can argue that the Ifa corpus is a 16-bit system, so... Sega Genesis or Super Nintendo? According to the oral history of the Yoruba, the gods once existed as earthly beings with their own form of communication roughly 12,000 years ago. Prior to their departure from this earth, they left with them a system for humans to use in order to continue communicating with them while they resided in the realm of gods. Unlike most of the world's religions that rely solely on the trust and faith of spiritual mediums like priests and monks to serve as intermediaries between gods and humans, Ifa corpus is a system that relies on mathematical measurements and random number generation to provide guidance to its followers. More specifically, the 256 Odus mentioned earlier are also divisible into an additional 1,680 sacred verses, so the Yoruba gods effectively contain a pool of 430,080 messages for mankind. Though one could argue that random number generation and mathematics are ineffective for divination or spirituality, it is worth noting that following this concept has proven in modern times to be more consistent and reliable, as most major breakthroughs and scientific laws that have shaped the way we understand the world around us rely on this very same concept. So now I bet you're wondering how such a complex computer system was carried out prior to the advent of actual computers. In practice, it's very simple, despite the overwhelming complexity of the math behind it. There are a few methods that are used to carry out the ritual, one of which involves a priest holding 6 sacred palm nuts in his left hand. He then attempts to grab all of them out at the same time with his right hand. If one nut remains in his left hand, he makes a mark on the divination board, which represents a 0. If 2 nuts remain, he makes 2 marks, which represent 1. If no nuts remain, or more than 2 remain, he makes no marks at all. He continues this process until 4 unique pairs of marks are left on the board, which effectively generate an 8-bit binary code. This code, as you may have guessed, corresponds to one of the 256 corpuses, or Odu. Another common method utilizes a divining chain. The priest simply holds a chain with 8 evenly spaced shells attached to it. The shells are concave on one side, while convex on the other. The priest then throws the chain down flat. The resulting combination of concave shells versus convex shells that are facing upwards will also correspond to a combination of 0s and 1s, and of course, one of the 256 Odus. There are also various drums used in the region known as slit drums, used to transmit messages over vast distances, encoded in binary. Since these instruments rely more on acoustics than percussion, they are more properly classified as idiophones rather than drums. As with most religious and cultural aspects of sub-Saharan Africa, Ifa has largely been shut out and ignored as some form of witchcraft or sorcery, and unfortunately to this day it's still shunned by much of the modern Nigerian population in favor of Western religious systems. However, regardless of one's own religious beliefs, it is safe to say that a religious divination that relies on mathematics rather than faith alone can definitely claim the title as the more secular religion. Thanks for watching guys, but before we go, this video is sponsored by NordPass, a new service powered by the more popular NordVPN service. NordPass not only generates highly complex passwords instantly, but it also autofills and autosaves them, utilizing top-of-field encryption technology. In other words, that whole remember my password link that you always click on hesitantly but do it anyway because you're too lazy to type in your password every single time can be done directly through NordPass, but with significantly more security, all the while containing a more complex password that can be generated with just the click of a button. Like, you literally just click and log in with one master password for everything without even having to think about anything else at all. And also, while still protecting all of your passwords and personal account information, better than you ever could on your own before. Not to mention, you will never have to worry about forgetting or losing your password ever again. NordPass takes care of all of that and works on pretty much every single internet browser, even some of those old weird ones that barely no one even uses anymore. Oh, and don't worry, your mobile devices can be protected as well. You can get 50% off of the already ridiculously low price, plus an additional month for free if you use my promo code FROMNOTHING. Or just go to nordpass.com/FromNothing, which I'll leave a link to below. So basically you'll be getting this awesome service for just $249 a month, all the while supporting the continuation and growth of From Nothing in the process. Everybody wins. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I put tons of research into it, and even still, I don't think I've even scratched the surface of how complex this divination system is. If you enjoyed it or learned something new, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and always remember, we don't come from nothing.